There is a silence that doesn't feel empty. It feels full, like the air is holding its breath, waiting for something ancient to stir. Beneath our feet, a world pulses with life we can see. A silent, complex web of roots and fungi, whispering in a language older than time. We walk through it, unaware of the conversations happening beneath our feet. A network so vast, it defies the limits of our understanding. The forest is not a collection of trees. It is a story written in roots, a song sung in silence, and a memory etched into the soil. So what exactly are we talking about? It's not just trees, it's a symphony of roots and rhizomes, of unseen threads that bind the forest together, whispering in a language older than memory. This is a network that operates beyond sight, beyond the senses we've been trained to trust. It is a conversation that happens in the dark, in the quiet spaces between the leaves. We are not just observers here. We are part of a living system that has been learning, adapting, and evolving for millennia. A network that pulses with the breath of the earth itself. So when we talk about the forest as a living network, we are not talking about something abstract or mystical. We are talking about a reality that is alive, complex, and deeply interconnected, just like us. You think you are separate from the forest, but you're not. You're part of the same invisible web, breathing the same air, feeling the same pulse of life that runs through every leaf and root. When you walk through the woods, you're not just passing through. You're walking on the bones of a living system, one that has been learning, adapting, and surviving for millennia. The forest doesn't just sustain the earth. It sustains you. It filters your water, cleans your air, and even shapes your mood with the quiet rhythm of its presence. You don't have to believe in magic to feel the pull of the forest. It's there in the way you feel lighter when you're near it, in the way the world feels quieter and more real. To care about the forest is to care about yourself. It's to remember that you are not alone, and that the world is not just a place to live. It's a living, breathing part of you. Before we were here, the forest was already here. It had roots older than our oldest myths, and a silence that predated our first words. The first humans came as wanderers, not conquerors, drawn by the hum of life beneath the soil and the whisper of leaves in the wind. Then came the tools, the fires, the cities. The forest was no longer a mystery. It became a resource, a symbol, a battleground. But even as we shaped the land, the forest shaped us. Its cycles taught us patience. Its secrets whispered through the wind and water. Today, we stand at the edge of a great unraveling. The forest is still alive, but its voice is fading, and we are the ones who must listen. Imagine you're in a forest, and every tree is like a finger, touching the earth and other trees. They all share secrets and help each other grow. The trees don't just stand alone. They talk through their roots, sending messages and helping each other stay strong. Even when one tree gets sick, the others help it by sharing their strength and knowledge. The forest isn't just a place. It's a family, growing and learning together, like you and your friends. The forest begins not with a tree, but with the soil. Beneath our feet, in the dark, the roots weave a silent map of connection, unseen, yet vital to the life that will rise above. Each root is a thread in a vast, invisible network, reaching out in all directions, whispering across the ground, sharing nutrients, signals, and the memory of the earth itself. This is the foundation of the forest's intelligence, a hidden, ancient system that binds the ecosystem together, older than memory, older than time. The soil is not empty. It is a world of its own, where life thrives in the dark, where the roots of the trees speak in a language we have yet to fully understand. In this quiet, dark place, the forest sets its foundation. Not for itself alone, but for the entire web of life that will rise from it, sustained by the silent work of the roots below. The tree roots dig deep, not just to anchor, but to reach the hidden veins of the earth. They tap into ancient pathways, whispering secrets to the soil that only the network understands. The fungi, silent and patient, act as the bridge between these roots. They are the unseen messengers, carrying messages not in words, but in chemicals and signals that flow like a shared language. In this exchange, there is no giver or taker, only a rhythm of giving and receiving, a slow, steady pulse that moves through the earth like a heartbeat, ancient and infinite. This is not a system, but a living web, not built, but grown, not planned, but felt, a network that moves with the seasons, the wind, the rain, and the memory of the land itself. The twist is not in the roots, but in the air. The trees do not merely send messages. They whisper them through the sky, through the breath of the wind, through the silent language of the atmosphere. This is how they speak across vast distances, bypassing the soil and the soil's slow, heavy pathways. The wind is their voice, the air their messenger, carrying the scent of decay, the call of a seed, the memory of rain. The trees do not merely receive, they respond. They adjust their rhythms, their growth, their chemical offerings, in sync with the pulse of the forest's invisible breath. This is the elegance of the forest. Its intelligence is not in its roots, but in its silence, in its knowing, in its way of being both grounded and airborne, both rooted and free. The clever twist is that the forest is not just a body, but a breath. It is not just a network, but a song. And we are only beginning to hear it. Beneath the moss and bark, a silent conversation unfolds in the soil, where roots and fungi weave a network older than time itself. This mycorrhizal network connects trees, sharing nutrients, warnings, and even memories through chemical whispers in the earth. The forest is not just a collection of trees. It is a mind, a memory, a breathing entity, sustained by the invisible threads of its own making. This science is not just data, but a language of roots and light, of decay and renewal, of a world that listens and responds. To understand the forest is to understand the pulse of the earth itself, and to feel the weight of being part of something far greater than ourselves. Imagine a world where every tree is a person, and every root is a phone line. They whisper, they share, they remember. It's not smart, but it's real. The forest doesn't think, but it knows. We humans like to build roads and send messages through wires, but the forest has a different way. It's not about speed, it's about connection. It's about being part of something larger. This is the forest's language. Not words, but rhythms. Not logic, but life. It's not about being right. It's about being alive. And in that aliveness, there is a kind of wisdom. So, if we can only understand it in dumb ways, then let's be dumb. Let's see the forest not as a resource, but as a story. A story that's older than us and wiser than we know. Comment this emoji if you made it to the end. Did you know that trees can talk? Not with words, but with chemicals. They exchange signals through the air and soil, shaping entire forests. These chemical whispers help trees warn each other of danger, like a forest-wide alarm system. It's nature's first form of communication. When a tree is attacked by insects, it releases volatile organic compounds that signal nearby trees to prepare their defenses. This isn't just survival. It's a complex network of information exchange, turning forests into living, breathing communities. So next time you walk through the woods, remember, you're not just seeing trees, you're witnessing a silent, ancient conversation. So what exactly are we talking about? It's not just trees standing there. It's a whole network of communication happening in the air, underground, and even through their roots. Imagine a forest where trees can talk to each other, not with words, but with chemicals, sending signals through the air and soil to warm, share nutrients, or even defend themselves. These chemicals are like a language. Some are volatile, spreading quickly through the air, while others are slower, moving through the soil and connecting trees over great distances. One of the most fascinating examples is when a tree gets attacked by insects. It releases a chemical that tells neighboring trees to prepare their defenses, even before the insects arrive. This isn't just science fiction. It's real, and it's happening all around us, in every forest, every day. When you walk through a forest, you're not just seeing trees. You're witnessing a silent, ancient conversations. Every time you step on a leaf or touch a trunk, you're part of a network that's been shaping ecosystems for millennia. This isn't just about survival. It's about cooperation. Trees share nutrients, warn each other of danger, and even support the growth of younger saplings. It's a kind of botanical altruism, rooted in chemistry. Understanding this system could help us design better forests, fight climate change, and even improve urban environments. It's a reminder that nature is more connected than we ever imagined. So, the next time you're in a forest, take a moment. You're not just a visitor. You're a participant in a vast chemical conversation that's been happening for thousands of years, and it's still unfolding right now. Imagine 350 million years ago, when Earth was still young and forests were just beginning to rise. Ancient ferns and lycophytes formed the first dense canopies, and here, in the shadow of these towering giants, the seeds of chemical communication were sown. As these early plants evolved, they developed a way to pass signals between themselves, chemical cues that warned of threats like drought or insect attacks. It was a silent language, carried through the air and soil, shaping the first complex ecosystems. Fast forward to the Carboniferous period, when vast swamp forests dominated the planet. Here, primitive trees like the giant club moss began to communicate across distances, using volatile organic compounds to share information about their environment. By the time dinosaurs roamed the land, trees had become master communicators. Their roots formed vast underground networks, like a neural web, passing signals through chemicals that could warn neighboring trees of danger long before it arrived. And now, in our modern forests, this ancient language of chemical signaling continues. Scientists are decoding it, revealing how trees not only survive but thrive through silent cooperation, rewriting our understanding of forest ecology. Imagine trees talking to each other, not with words, but with chemicals. When a tree gets hurt, it sends out a message through the air, like a secret signal. These messages help the trees warn their friends. They're like a tree's way of calling for help when something dangerous is happening. The chemicals are like tiny messengers. They travel through the air and land on neighboring trees, telling them, "Watch out, something is wrong." When the trees get this message, they can prepare for danger. They might grow stronger or even help each other by sharing nutrients. So even though trees can't talk, they're not alone. They're part of a big, smart community that helps each other survive. Imagine a forest floor, alive with roots and soil, where trees are not alone. Beneath the surface, a hidden network thrives, a complex web of mycorrhizal fungi connecting tree roots in a silent, ancient partnership. These fungi are not just passive, they are active communicators, acting as both messengers and messengers in a silent chemical language that stretches far beyond the reach of any single tree. When a tree is wounded, it releases chemical signals into the soil, molecules that act like distress calls, alerting neighboring trees to the threat. These signals are not random. They are precise encoded messages that can trigger a variety of defensive responses, from the production of protective chemicals to the strengthening of cell walls. This is the first step in a complex, silent conversations that allows trees to warn each other, share resources, and even support one another in times of stress. a network that has shaped forests for millennia. Once the signal is released, it travels through the air in the form of volatile organic compounds, like terpenes, which are lightweight and can move easily through the canopy. These chemicals drift through the air, carried by wind until they reach neighboring trees, where they are detected by specialized receptors on the leaves and bark. When the chemicals bind to these receptors, a signal is triggered inside the tree, activating genes that control how the tree responds, like strengthening its defenses or sharing nutrients. This response can be immediate, like releasing more chemicals into the air, or it can take days, as the tree adjusts its internal processes to adapt to the information it received. This whole process is like a silent conversations, an ancient and complex language passed between trees, shaping the entire forest ecosystem. Now here's the clever twist. The chemical signals don't just travel down the roots, they actually move upward too, through the soil and into neighboring trees. This creates a kind of chemical network, almost like this silent conversation happening beneath the forest floor. But how does this upward movement happen? It turns out that some of these chemicals are carried by fungi, which form a symbiotic relationship with tree roots. These fungi act like biological highways, helping to transport signals between trees. This fungal network allows trees to share not just chemicals, but also warnings. When a tree is attacked by insects or disease, it can send out distress signals that neighboring trees can pick up and respond to. In this way, the forest becomes a collective system. Trees working together, communicating across vast distances, and protecting each other without even touching. It's not just a forest, it's a living, breathing network. Underneath the forest floor, a silent symphony plays out in the soil. Trees release chemicals called volatiles, like a language of roots, whispering warnings and sharing resources across vast distances. These chemicals are not just random, they're precise messages. When a tree is attacked by insects, it emits a specific blend of volatile organic compounds that alert its neighbors. The neighboring trees, in turn, produce their own chemicals, either to repel the attackers or to bolster their own defenses. It's a form of chemical communication that's both ancient and incredibly sophisticated. This exchange isn't just about survival, it's about cooperation. Trees share nutrients through fungal networks, like a hidden internet beneath the soil, where messages travel faster than roots ever could. It's humbling to think that in this dense, ancient world, trees are not just standing alone. They're part of a vast, living network, constantly communicating, adapting, and learning together. Imagine a city where every building is a tree, and instead of phones, they communicate through invisible chemical signals that travel through the air. They don't just talk, they warn each other of danger, share resources, and even help each other grow. When a tree gets attacked by insects, it releases a chemical message that drifts through the air like a smoke signal, letting its neighbors know they're under threat. In this city of trees, communication isn't just about sending messages. It's about building a community that shares knowledge, resources, and even warnings about danger. This is the reality of the forest, a silent, ancient network of chemical conversations, where trees are not alone, but connected in ways we're only beginning to understand. Comment this emoji if you made it to the end. You know how trees stand still? They're not just standing. They're whispering in a language we can't hear, through light, through time, through the very air. Imagine a world where trees talk not with words, but with shadows, with color, with the rhythm of sunlight streaming through leaves. This is not just nature. This is a conversation, ancient and intricate, carried by light itself. And somehow, in the silence of the woods, they're speaking to each other. Let's find out how. So what exactly are we talking about? It's not just about leaves catching sunlight. It's about a whole conversations happening in the canopy, invisible to the eye. Trees use sunlight not just to grow, but to send messages to each other. They talk through the light, adjusting their leaves and branches to signal what's happening around them. Some trees even change the way they absorb sunlight to warn their neighbors about danger, like a kind of natural early warning system. It's a whole new way of thinking about nature, not just as a place of growth, but as a network of communication, powered by the very light that sustains it. You might think trees are just standing there, but they're actually whispering in the language of light. Every time you walk through a forest, you're stepping into a conversation that's been going on for millennia. This isn't just beauty, it's a complex system of signals, warnings, and shared knowledge. Trees are using sunlight to talk, and you're part of the audience, even if you don't realize it. When you see a tree in full bloom, it's not just showing off. It's broadcasting its health, signaling to others nearby that it's thriving, and even helping its neighbors survive. Understanding this secret language can change how you see nature. It's not just a backdrop for your life. It's a living, breathing network that's silently shaping the world around you. So next time you're at a park or under a tree, take a moment. You're not just enjoying the light, you're listening to a conversation that's older than time itself. Imagine a world where trees don't just grow, but whisper in the language of light. For thousands of years, ancient forests have been exchanging messages through the sun, long before humans ever noticed. In the 19th century, scientists first started to see the patterns, how trees adjusted their leaves to catch more light, like a silent conversation happening above our heads. Then, in the 1980s, researchers discovered something even more astonishing. Trees can sense each other's light levels and adjust their growth in response, not just to the sun, but to their neighbors. This isn't just science. It's a kind of ancient, quiet intelligence, a silent network of green, communicating in the language of light. And now, we're starting to see the future of this language, not just in forests, but in cities, where trees are learning to speak to each other again. Imagine if your leaves could talk, and they used sunlight to send messages. Trees do this with their leaves, sending out light signals to talk to each other. Some trees even use their leaves to tell other trees when they're stressed, like when there's not enough water or when bugs are around. They use light like a secret code, and other trees can read it to help the whole forest survive. It's like a language made of light, and trees are speaking it all the time, even when we can't see it. Imagine standing beneath an ancient oak, sunlight filtering through its leaves like a whisper. Each beam is more than light. It's a message, a signal in the language of the forest. This isn't just a random dance of light. It's a setup, a silent conversation that's been unfolding for centuries. Trees have created their own network of signals, invisible to the eye but deeply felt. The first step in this process is the sun itself, the silent sender of messages across the forest. It doesn't just illuminate, it sets the stage for a hidden dialogue between trees. Then there's the structure of the canopy, a natural antenna capturing and redirecting light in ways we're only beginning to understand. Every leaf plays a role in this silent exchange. And finally, the ground, where this light lands, where it's absorbed, reflected, and transformed into something more than just energy. It's the final act in this quiet, radiant performance. When sunlight hits the leaves, it's not just energy, it's a signal. The tree's chlorophyll absorbs specific wavelengths, turning light into a kind of language that tells other trees, I'm here, I'm healthy, I'm thriving. But it's not just about the light itself. Trees also reflect and scatter it, creating patterns that can be read by other plants. It's like a silent conversation happening in the air, invisible to the human eye. Some trees even use the sun to send out chemical messages. When they detect changes in light, they release compounds that can warn nearby trees of danger or share nutrients. This is more than just survival. It's a form of intelligence. Trees are using the sun not just to live, but to connect, to adapt, to thrive in a complex, silent network of communication. So the next time you walk through the woods, look closely. The light is not just falling, it's talking. And the trees, they're listening. Now, here's the clever twist. Trees don't just absorb sunlight. They also use it to send messages to their neighbors. By adjusting how much light they reflect, trees can signal to others when they're stressed or overgrown, creating a kind of silent conversation in the canopy. Show. Underneath the forest floor, there's a silent symphony of light. Trees don't just absorb sunlight, they dance with it, sending out messages in wavelengths only they can read. Scientists have found that trees use a process called phototropism, where they bend toward light, but it's more than just a physical response. It's a form of communication. Some researchers believe that trees emit subtle pulses of light, like a heartbeat of the forest, detectable only with ultra-sensitive cameras and high-speed sensors. This isn't just about survival. It's a kind of intelligence, a way trees share knowledge across distances, shaping the very fabric of the ecosystem. The more we study light, the more we realize it's not just a tool, it's a language, and trees are fluent in it, speaking in patterns we're only beginning to understand. Imagine a tree is like a kid with a flashlight in a dark room, trying to find the best way to shine light so it can grow. It doesn't know what's around it, but it's learning through trial and error. When the sun moves, the tree adjusts how it captures light, like a kid learning to aim a flashlight. It's not smart, but it's persistent. Just like a kid might use a flashlight to draw attention or mark a path, trees use light to signal, warn, or even help each other. It's gloriously dumb, like a kid who just wants to shine light and see what happens. But in that simplicity, there's a profound, ancient wisdom. So maybe trees aren't just standing there. They're performing as silent, solar-powered conversations, one beam at a time. Comment this emoji if you made it to the end. Imagine a world where trees communicate through roots, and the forest itself is a living, breathing network. It's not science fiction. It's the secret life of fungi. These threads are not just roots. They're the neural pathways of the forest, connecting trees, plants, and even animals in a silent, ancient conversation. This is the hidden web of life, a vast underground internet that has been shaping ecosystems for millions of years. But how did this secret network evolve? And why is it so crucial to the survival of the forest? Let's dive into the weirdly fascinating world of fungi and their role in nature. So, what exactly are we talking about? Let me paint a picture. Imagine a forest where the trees aren't just standing alone. They're connected through an invisible web, like a living network. This isn't just dirt and decay. These are fungi, ancient, resilient, and vital. They're not just decomposers. They're architects of the forest's life support system. They transfer nutrients between trees, helping the whole ecosystem breathe. It's like a digital network, but made of biology. This is the forest's internet. This symbiosis isn't one-sided. Trees provide sugars, and fungi help them absorb water and minerals. They're partners in survival, evolving together over millennia. So when we talk about fungi as the forest's internet, we're talking about a hidden, dynamic collaboration that shapes the health of entire ecosystems. You might not think about fungi when you walk through a forest, but they're quietly helping your favorite trees grow stronger. They're like the nervous system of the woods, keeping everything connected and alive. Fungi help trees share nutrients and even warn them of disease. It's like a secret network that lets plants talk to each other, without words, just chemical signals and fungal threads. This network is essential for the survival of forests, and by extension, for the air we breathe and the food we eat. It's a reminder that nature's most powerful connections are often invisible to us. Understanding fungi isn't just about curiosity. It's about recognizing how fragile and interconnected our ecosystems are. The next time you see a mushroom, think of it as a message from the forest itself, So maybe you should start paying more attention. The forest's internet is not just fascinating, it's vital. And you, unknowingly, depend on it every day. Let me take you back 400 million years, to the time when the first land plants started to colonize Earth. Fungi were already there, forming the first networks that helped plants survive in harsh conditions. As plants evolved, so did fungi. They began to form mutualistic relationships, exchanging nutrients and water through an underground network that predated even our ancestors. In the wake of mass extinctions, fungi proved their resilience. They helped ecosystems rebuild, recycling dead matter and supporting life in the most extreme conditions. Even in the modern era, fungi continue to shape our planet's ecosystems, acting as the hidden glue that binds life together in ways we're only beginning to understand. Imagine a forest where trees talk to each other through a secret underground network. It's like a big brain made of roots and fungi. This network is actually made of fungi, which help trees share water, nutrients, and even warnings about danger. The fungi are like the internet of the forest, connecting everything so they can help each other survive. Even though the fungi aren't visible, they're doing the most important work in the forest. So next time you walk through a forest, remember, there's a whole secret world helping it all grow. Let's start at the beginning. How do these fungi even get connected in the first place? It all starts with spores, tiny and ancient, drifting through the air like nature's first internet packets. When a spore lands on damp, nutrient-rich soil, it germinates and grows into a network of delicate, thread-like hyphae that spread through the ground like invisible roots. Some fungi even form partnerships with tree roots, exchanging nutrients and signals through these underground highways. It's like a silent, shared language beneath our feet. This isn't just a random network. It's a carefully maintained system, shaped by evolution and cooperation. It's the first step in building the forest's internet. Now, the fungi start to send out tiny thread-like structures called hyphae. These hyphae grow through the soil, connecting to the roots of neighboring trees, forming a vast, invisible network beneath the forest floor. These hyphae act like cables, carrying nutrients and chemical signals between plants. They're not just physical connections, they're a kind of biological internet, allowing the forest to communicate and share resources. When a tree is under stress, like from drought or disease, it can send out chemical warnings through this network. Nearby trees can then respond by adjusting their own resources or even sharing water. This communication isn't just about survival. It's about cooperation. The fungi act as a mediator, facilitating a kind of collective intelligence that helps the entire forest ecosystem thrive. So, the next time you walk through a forest, remember that beneath your feet is a living network. More like a brain than a web, where fungi are the silent architects of survival. Now, here's the clever twist. Fungi don't just pass along nutrients. They also share information. This isn't just about survival. It's about learning and adapting together. Through chemical signals and electrical impulses, they communicate warnings, like, there's a predator nearby, or this plant is poisoned. This shared intelligence allows the entire forest to react as one, defending itself against threats and optimizing its resources across the network. In this way, fungi turn the forest into a collective brain, where knowledge is passed, adapted, and used for the survival of all. Under the soil, a network of fungi threads hums with life, connecting trees in a silent, ancient language that predates human memory. This is the forest's nervous system, a living internet where nutrients, warnings, and even chemical messages travel across vast distances. This isn't just cooperation. It's a form of communication that has shaped entire ecosystems, allowing forests to adapt and endure over millennia. In this hidden world, fungi are not just decomposers. They are the silent architects of forest resilience, the unseen glue that holds life together. So imagine this. The forest is a giant, ancient computer network, and the fungi are the routers and cables, passing messages through the soil like fiber optic strands. The trees are like the computers, sending out electrical signals through these fungal highways to share nutrients, warnings, and even memories. It's not just about survival, it's about cooperation, a kind of collective intelligence that's been shaping the forest for millennia. And here's the kicker. This isn't science fiction. This is real. The forest is wired, and fungi are the silent architects of its intelligence. So next time you walk through the woods, remember, you're not just seeing trees, you're walking through a vast, living internet. Comment this emoji if you made it to the end. Ever notice how trees seem to know when danger is near? They don't just stand there. They whisper to each other in ways we can't hear. It's not just wind or animals. There's something deeper happening here. A secret language of the forest that scientists are only now beginning to understand. Some trees can sense when a storm is coming, or when a predator is nearby. They send out signals that help their neighbors prepare. This isn't just survival. It's a form of communication. A kind of ecological intelligence that's shaping the very fabric of the forest. So, what happens when one tree falls? It's not just the sound of breaking wood. It's the start of a conversation between the roots, the soil, and the wind. This is the beginning of a story about the hidden intelligence of trees, and how they're more connected than we ever imagined. So, what exactly are we talking about? It's not just trees whispering to each other. It's a whole system of communication, mostly underground, using something called chemical signals. When a tree is attacked by insects or disease, it releases certain chemicals into the soil. These chemicals travel through the roots and reach neighboring trees, like a silent alarm. These signals can warn other trees about the type of threat they're facing. Some trees even change how they grow or produce more defensive chemicals in response. It's like a tree has a kind of nervous system, sending messages through its roots to warn friends about danger. It's a quiet, ancient form of communication. This isn't just cool science. It's a reminder that even in the quietest places, nature has its own complex ways of staying connected and surviving. You might think trees are just standing there, but they're actually part of a secret network that helps them survive. Imagine if you have friends warning you about danger before it even happened. This isn't just cool. It's vital. If one tree is attacked, it can send out chemical signals to warn the others nearby. It's like a silent alarm system in the forest. So the next time you walk through a forest, think about the invisible conversations happening beneath your feet. These trees are not just passive. They're active, alert, and surprisingly connected. Understanding this hidden world can change how you see nature. It's not just about beauty. It's about survival, communication, and the incredible intelligence of the natural world. Imagine 400 million years ago, before forests had names. Trees were already whispering. They had no words, but they had chemicals, and they used them to shout across the dark, ancient woods. In the Carboniferous era, trees evolved a secret language. When a tree was attacked, it would release volatile chemicals into the air, sending a message that was both a warning and a call to arms. This wasn't just survival. It was a sophisticated system of communication. Trees could sense danger from miles away, sharing information through the air, the soil, and even through fungal networks. Scientists call this the Wood Wide Web, a living, breathing information highway that has been operating in the shadows of our forests for eons. It's not just ancient, it's still evolving. From the Carboniferous to today, the art of warning has never stopped. It's a reminder that even the oldest trees have the most advanced way of knowing when danger is near. Imagine you're in a forest, and your tree friend yells, "Watch out!" But how? Well, trees have their own secret way of talking, like sending messages through the ground. They use special roots that act like phone lines, passing warnings about danger like a message in a bottle. When a tree is hurt, It sends a signal through the roots to its neighbors, like a friend shouting, "Get ready." This secret language helps trees stay safe, like a superhero team working together to protect the forest. So, how does this whole communication system even start? It begins with the trees themselves, massive, ancient, and incredibly complex organisms. They're not just standing there. They're living, breathing networks of roots, leaves, and bark. Beneath the soil, a hidden world is at work. Trees are connected through a vast underground network of roots, some of them even sharing the same soil with neighboring trees. These roots aren't just for anchoring. They're like secret highways for information. But how do trees even know when they need to send a warning? It all starts with their ability to sense danger. Whether it's a pest, a disease, or even a cut in their trunk, trees can detect it almost instantly. Once a tree detects a threat, it starts producing chemical signals, like distress calls in the language of the forest. These chemicals are released into the soil and travel through the root system, like a message in a bottle. And then the communication begins. The chemical signals reach other trees, which in turn interpret the message and prepare for the danger. It's like a call and response system, but one that takes place under the earth and through ancient, silent connections. When a tree is attacked, it doesn't just shout. It sends out chemical signals through the soil like a silent alarm system. These chemicals are like tiny messengers, rushing through the ground to warn nearby trees. The chemicals are called volatile organic compounds, and they float above the soil like a trail of invisible smoke. They travel through the air, reaching the leaves of neighboring trees. Once the neighboring trees catch these signals, they start producing their own chemicals, like a protective shield. These chemicals can make their leaves bitter or toxic to insects, making them less appealing as food. But it's not just about the leaves. The entire tree can change. Some trees even release chemicals that slow down the growth of nearby plants, giving themselves more space and resources. This communication isn't just clever. It's a survival strategy that has evolved over millions of years. Trees don't just live alone. They're part of a vast living network, sharing warnings and resources like an ancient green internet. But here's the real twist. They don't just send a warning, they tailor it to the type of danger. Some trees even send different signals for insects versus herbivores. This means the warning is not just a shout, but a specific message. It's like sending a code that only the right trees can read. And the message isn't always the same. Some trees even warn their neighbors about the best time to release their own chemicals. A kind of ecological choreography. So, it's not just about warning. It's about optimizing survival through shared knowledge. A kind of plant-based internet, built on trust and mutual aid. When a tree is attacked, it doesn't just shout. It hums a warning through the soil. It's like a secret language passed through roots, a silent alarm that can travel tens of meters. These messages aren't just words. They're chemical signals, like tiny messengers that tell neighboring trees, "Watch out, something's coming." This communication isn't just passive. Some trees can even respond in real time, preparing their defenses before the attack even happens. And it's not just insects. Some studies suggest these warnings can even alert trees to drought or fire, showing that nature's warning system is far more complex than we ever imagined. Imagine if your phone could text your friends when a fire broke out nearby. That's basically what trees do with their chemical alarms. It's not smart, but it works. These chemical signals are like a simple ancient message board. Trees don't have brains, but they've figured out a way to share danger in a language only they understand. It's like a group chat that only works if everyone's listening. If one tree gets burned, it's shouting into the wind, but the others hear it and prepare. This system isn't perfect, but it's efficient. It's not smart, it's just gloriously dumb. And that's what makes it so fascinating. So, next time you're in the woods, remember, you're not alone. The trees are talking, and they've been doing it for millennia. Comment this emoji if you made it to the end. There's something humbling about standing beneath an ancient tree, feeling the weight of time in its stillness. It's not just the size or the bark or the leaves. It's the way it holds space for everything that has come before. You can almost hear the whispers of its years, the stories etched into its rings, the secrets buried in its roots. It doesn't speak, but it's learning, just like we are. Only it has had more time to do it. And in its stillness, it offers something we often forget: patience. It doesn't rush to grow, to change, to flourish. It simply endures, waiting for the right moment to bloom, to shed, to let go. In this quiet, ancient presence, we find a mirror. We see our own potential, our own capacity to grow, to adapt, to survive. It's not about being old, it's about being wise. So maybe the answer to how we live our lives isn't in the speed of our growth, but in the depth of our roots. And sometimes the oldest trees teach us that wisdom isn't about being old. It's about being rooted. So what exactly are we talking about? It's not just about years. It's about the silent stories etched in the bark, the slow wisdom that grows with each passing season. These trees don't rush. They listen. They remember. They stand through storms, droughts, and the quiet passing of time, holding space for everything that comes and goes. Old trees don't just live long. They live deeply. Their roots dig through stone. Their leaves turn with the seasons, and their wisdom is written in rings, not words. They don't speak, but they teach. They don't lead, but they guide. They don't rush, but they endure. And in their stillness, there is a kind of power we often overlook. So when we talk about old trees, we're not just talking about age. We're talking about patience, about presence, about the quiet strength of being rooted in something greater than ourselves. You might not realize it, but the trees you pass every day are whispering secrets to you. They've seen the rise and fall of generations, and they know what it takes to survive. Their roots hold the stories of the earth, and their branches hold the sky. The wisdom of age isn't just in the years, but in the scars and the slow, steady growth. Every ring is a lesson, every crack a memory. They've weathered storms, droughts, and time, and they're still here, standing tall. You don't need to be old to learn from them. You just need to pause, to listen, to let the stillness speak. In the silence, you might hear what they're trying to tell you. About patience, about resilience, about the beauty of growing slowly. There is a kind of humility in their presence. They don't demand your attention, but they offer it. They don't rush, they don't boast. They simply exist, and in that existence, they teach you how to be. So maybe, just maybe, you should care about this. Not because you're old, but because you're still growing. And the trees, they already done the work. All you have to do is let them guide you. We rush through centuries, past the first saplings, their roots barely grasping the earth. Time moves like a slow tide, carving paths through the soil, leaving behind the ghosts of growth. The years pass like whispers, each season adding rings to the trunk, each storm etching stories into the bark. The tree remembers every fall, every rise, every breath of wind. We walk through its history, not as a timeline, but as a heartbeat, slow, steady, and full of meaning. Every scar, every knot, every leaf is a memory waiting to be felt. In its age, we find a language older than words, a rhythm of growth, decay, and renewal. The tree does not speak, but it teaches. It listens, and it holds. As we speed through its history, We are reminded that time is not a race. It is a dance, a slow unfolding of life. And the oldest trees are its most patient partners. In the end, the tree does not age. It simply grows. And in its stillness, it offers us a truth. To live is to be rooted, to be present, and to be wise. You know how when you're little, you think the world is all about you? Well, old trees don't think that way. They just grow slowly, quietly, and they remember. They don't rush to be big. They take time. They don't worry about being perfect. They just keep standing, even when the wind shakes them. They don't talk, but they know. They don't run, but they remember. They don't need to shout their wisdom. They just stand there, steady and strong. So maybe the trees are not just trees. Maybe they're teachers. And maybe, if you look closely, you can see what they've learned. And maybe, just maybe, you can learn from them too. You start by finding a place where the old tree stands alone, its roots spread like ancient veins beneath the soil. It's not just a tree, it's a keeper of time, a quiet witness to the passage of seasons. The ground around it is soft, disturbed only by the gentle weight of its leaves and the slow trickle of rain. You kneel, your hands brushing the earth, as if to feel the pulse of something much older than you. Then you sit, not in the shade, but just a few feet away, where the light filters through the canopy in golden threads. You sit with your back to the tree, as if to absorb its stillness, its quiet authority. In this moment, you don't ask for answers. You simply allow the tree to be present, and in its presence, you begin to feel the weight of time. Not as a burden, but as a quiet guide, waiting to be understood. The roots of the tree are like veins, carrying whispers of the past through the soil. They reach deep, not just for water, but for memory, for the wisdom of what grew before. When the wind passes through the branches, it carries the stories of the tree, stories of storms, of drought, of seasons that came and went. It speaks, but only to those who know how to listen. The tree does not speak in words, but in patterns. The way it bends in the wind, the way it holds its leaves, the way it lets some light pass and blocks the rest, all are lessons in patience and purpose. And when the young sapling takes root near it, it does not mimic the old tree. It listens, it learns, but it grows in its own way. The old tree does not demand, it offers. The mechanism is not force, but presence. The old tree does not teach. It becomes a mirror, reflecting the world back to those who dare to look. But here's the clever twist. The trees don't just grow in silence. They whisper to each other through the soil, sharing secrets in a language older than words. This underground conversation is a lifeline, a way to warn of coming storms or to share the nutrients of the last harvest, even when the sky is clear. The young trees listen, not with ears, but with roots, learning to read the subtle messages that guide them through the chaos of growth. This is not just survival, it's a form of wisdom, passed on not through words, but through the quiet persistence of life itself. And so, the old trees teach us that wisdom isn't just about knowing the answers. It's about learning to listen to the world around you. There's a quiet science to the way trees grow, a rhythm written in rings, a language of time that speaks across centuries. They don't just live, they remember. Scientists call it dendrochronology, the study of tree rings. Each ring tells a story of drought, of fire, of the seasons turning, of the earth exhaling and inhaling in slow, steady breaths. When we listen to the trees, we're not just hearing the past. We're learning how to live with the present, how to let time shape us, not break us. The science isn't just about trees. It's about patience, about endurance, about how the slowest growth can outlast the most violent storms. You see, age isn't about being wise, it's about being patient. A tree doesn't rush to grow, it just keeps reaching, one ring at a time. And that quiet persistence, it teaches us how to be human. We often think wisdom is something we can grab like a trophy, but it's more like the slow drip of rain. It seeps into the roots, it doesn't shout, it just holds the ground. The tree doesn't need to explain itself, it just is. And in its being, it whispers that the most profound truths are often the ones we don't even realize we're living. So maybe the real lesson isn't about getting old, but about learning to grow without the need to prove anything. To just keep living, one day at a time. And in that, we find not just wisdom, but a kind of grace. The kind that doesn't shout, but lets the world know it's been there. Quietly. All along. Comment this emoji if you made it to the end. Imagine walking through a forest where every tree holds a memory of storms, fires, and the passage of time. These ancient sentinels don't just stand there. They remember. When a fire sweeps through, the trees don't just burn. They store the heat, the smoke, and the shock waves in their bark and roots. They use this memory to prepare for the next disturbance, to strengthen their roots, to warn their neighbors through chemical signals. This is not just survival. It's a form of communication, a way of preserving the forest's history in the language of its very body. In this memory, we find the quiet resilience of nature, a testament to how life adapts, remembers, and endures. When we talk about trees remembering, we're not talking about memory in the human sense. Instead, we're looking at how trees encode information about their environment through chemical and structural changes over time. These changes can be seen in the tree's growth rings, which record things like drought, fire, or insect outbreaks. Each ring tells a story of what the tree experienced in that year. These chemical messages can travel through the air and even through the soil, creating a kind of network that allows trees to respond to disturbances collectively. In this way, trees don't just survive. They adapt, warn each other, and remember through the language of chemistry and structure. This is how the forest archives its history. When you walk through a forest, you're not just passing through trees. You're stepping into a living archive of memory. Every scar, every wound, every root that is tangled with the earth holds a story of survival. These memories aren't just about the trees. They're about the world they've endured. From droughts to storms, from fires to human touch, they've learned to adapt and remember, shaping the ecosystem around them. By studying these memories, we gain insight into how to protect and restore forests. It's a lesson in patience, in resilience, in the slow but sure way nature rebuilds itself. And in doing so, we also remember that we are part of this memory. Our choices today shape the forest's future, and in turn, the future of our own world. Imagine walking through a forest where the trees themselves are whispering stories of the past. Each scar on their bark is a chapter in an ancient book, written in a language of time and trauma. These marks aren't random, they are the tree's way of remembering. When a storm raged or a fire swept through, the tree recorded it in its rings, like a diary of survival and resilience. Even when a tree is felled, its memory isn't lost. The rings inside its trunk tell a story of growth, drought, and recovery, each layer a testament to its endurance. This is how forests remember, not through words, but through the slow, deliberate language of their own biology. Every scar, every ring, is a memory made of wood. Imagine you're in a forest, and the trees are like old friends who remember everything. They remember when storms came and when animals ran through. When something happens, like a fire or a storm, the trees use their roots to talk to each other and share the news. They remember what happened before, so they can grow stronger and be ready for the next time something big happens. It's like they have a memory, but not in their brains. They use their roots and the soil to remember and learn. So even though trees don't have brains, they have a way of remembering, just like you do, but with roots instead of memories. Before a tree can remember, the forest must first be set in motion. A disturbance, whether fire, storm, or logging, shakes the ground and cracks the soil. This is the first step, the trigger that begins the story of how a tree learns to adapt. The soil, once still, now becomes a battleground. Nutrients are scattered, roots are exposed, and the air is thick with the scent of decay. The forest floor, once a peaceful carpet, is now a place of transformation. The tree's survival depends on its ability to sense change. It does not think, but it does respond. Through chemical signals and physical shifts, the tree begins to understand what has changed in its environment. This is the beginning of memory. The tree does not store information in the way we do, but it retains the imprint of what has happened. This memory is not in the trunk or branches, but in the soil, in the roots, and in the chemical language of the forest. In this moment, the forest is both damaged and reborn. The tree, though wounded, has begun the process of remembering. And in remembering, it is preparing for the future, even as it stands in the aftermath of the past. When a tree detects damage, it releases chemical signals into the air. These volatile organic compounds travel through the atmosphere, carrying messages of distress. They alert neighboring trees to the presence of threats. These chemical signals are not random. They are specific, carrying information about the type of damage and the threat level. Some compounds signal herbivore attack, while others warn of fungal infections or drought. Trees respond by activating their own defense mechanisms. Some release natural pesticides, while others seal wounds with resin. The signals also trigger the production of proteins that help repair cellular damage. But the memory doesn't end with the tree itself. The chemical signals are absorbed by nearby trees, triggering their own defenses. This creates a kind of forest-wide communication system, a network of silent alerts. This is how the forest remembers, not in the way humans do, but through a slow, organic process. Trees don't just survive, they adapt, warn, and protect, leaving behind a memory written in chemistry. Now, here's the clever twist. Trees don't just remember through physical scars. They use their roots to exchange information with neighbors. This is called root-to-root communication, and it's like a secret underground network. This network, known as the Wood Wide Web, allows trees to send chemical signals that warn others about nearby dangers such as insect attacks or drought. It's a silent conversation across the forest floor. This kind of memory isn't just about surviving. It's about building resilience and fostering cooperation in the forest. Trees are not isolated individuals. They are part of a collective intelligence. In this way, the forest itself becomes a memory bank, holding stories of past storms, droughts, and invasions, encoded in the chemical language of its roots. Underneath the forest floor, a silent network hums with ancient knowledge. Roots intertwine, forming a vast web of communication that spans centuries, passing warnings and memories through chemical whispers. When a storm rages or a fire scorches the land, trees don't just react, they remember. Their roots absorb chemical signals, storing memories of past trauma in their very cells. These chemical memories can travel across great distances, allowing trees to warn their neighbors of danger long before the threat arrives. It's a form of communication that defies time and space. Even in death, the memory of a tree lives on. Fallen logs become nurseries for fungi, which in turn help nearby trees resist disease and recover from damage. This is not just survival. It's an elegant form of memory, a way for forests to remember, adapt, and endure. The forest's memory is written in roots, in chemicals, in the silent language of trees. Imagine a tree as a library, each ring a book, and each disturbance a note written in ink. It doesn't think, but it remembers, just like the library holds every book in order. When a storm hits, the tree doesn't feel fear. It feels the pressure, and it responds by reinforcing its structure, just like the library adds shelves when a new book arrives. It's not intelligence, but it's a kind of wisdom. The tree doesn't plan for the future, but it adapts, just like the library doesn't predict new books, but it holds them. So, in this analogy, the tree is dumb, but the memory it leaves behind is both poetic and precise, a quiet, unspoken language of survival and remembrance. Comment this emoji if you made it to the end. The forest is silent, not because it's empty, but because the trees have been removed. A vast, hollow space stretches before me, where once a dense canopy hummed with life. In this silence, there is a kind of grief, a quiet mourning for the roots that once whispered to the sky, for the network of life that once pulsed beneath the soil. We cut down trees for progress, for timber, for growth, but in doing so, we disrupt something deeper, something that connects us to the earth, to each other, to the past. The world is made of signals, of messages, of wind, of leaves, of light. When we silence the trees, we silence a language older than words. And in that silence, we are reminded that the earth is not just a place to build on. It's a place to listen to. We're talking about trees, not just as objects, but as silent messengers. They've been sending signals through the forest for millennia, long before humans arrived. Logging cuts through this silent language. When we fell a tree, we don't just remove a trunk. We sever connections that span across generations of life below the ground. The signals that once moved through the soil are now blocked. The whispers of the earth are drowned out by rising temperatures and shifting weather patterns. We're not just losing trees. We're losing a way of communicating, one that has always existed between the earth, the plants, and the creatures that depend on them. And in the silence that follows, we're left to wonder, what have we interrupted? What have we silenced in the process of building our world? You might not think your daily commute or your choice of coffee matters, but every log cut and every carbon molecule in the air is shaping the signals that carry your voice across the globe. When forests are cleared, the Earth's ability to regulate temperature and absorb carbon is weakened, and the climate shifts. These changes ripple through the atmosphere, affecting weather patterns and disrupting the very air we breathe. Logging and climate change are not abstract threats. They are real, tangible disruptions that affect the infrastructure of communication itself, which is built on the natural world. Even if you don't see the connection, the world you rely on to stay connected is being silently reshaped by the choices you make and the choices of those before you. The impact is not just environmental, it's personal. It's in the signals you depend on, in the climate that affects your daily life, and in the world that is slowly becoming harder to understand. The first trees were not cut for profit, but for survival. Early humans used them to build shelters, to light fires, to carve tools. But even then, the land began to change. And with it, the silence of the forest grew thinner. By the time the first empires rose, the forests were already being shaped. Loggers carved paths, built temples, and in doing so, created the first roads. The sound of axes echoed through the trees, a sound that would one day be drowned by the roar of machines. The 20th century brought not only more trees felled, but also the first climate alarms. Scientists began to see the link between deforestation and rising temperatures. Yet, the world kept logging, as if the Earth's voice was too faint to hear. Today, we log not just trees, but the very systems that allow us to communicate. With each tree lost, we disrupt the balance of the earth, and with it, the natural rhythms that once carried messages across the land, the air, and the water. Imagine you're trying to talk to someone across a big, empty forest. But every time you shout, the trees block your voice, and the wind carries it away. That's how logging and climate change mess up how we talk to each other. Now, picture the trees not just as silent, but as something alive. They're not just standing there. They're listening, grieving, and holding on to the stories of the earth. Climate change adds another layer. It's like a storm that comes without warning, shaking the ground and making it hard to hear what's being said. The world gets louder, but we get quieter. In the end, the message isn't about trees or weather. It's about how we listen to each other, to the earth, and to the future we're building together. The forest has always been a place of silence, where the wind moves through the trees like a whisper, carrying the stories of generations. But now, that silence is broken by the sound of chainsaws and the weight of human hands. Logging begins with a plan, a map of trees marked for removal, a blueprint of the future shaped by profit and progress. These maps are drawn with precision, but they erase the past, not just the trees. Before the trees fall, they are surveyed, measured, and tagged. Each tree is assigned a value, a number that reduces a living being to a commodity. This is how the forest is prepared for the coming storm. The first cut is not just a sound. It is the beginning of a chain reaction. Trees fall, roots are exposed, and the ecosystem begins to shift. The silence of the forest is replaced by the echoes of machines and the loss of a world that once thrived in quiet. In this first step, the forest is not just marked for removal. It is transformed. The land is no longer untouched, and the balance that once existed is already beginning to unravel. This is how it all begins. The trees, once standing tall, now lie in splintered silence, their roots severed from the earth. This is where the first fracture begins, between the land and its voice. Without the canopy to filter the sun, the soil is left exposed to the elements. The ground, once a home to 1,000 whispers, now dries and cracks, losing its ability to hold the stories of the earth. As the soil dries, so does the life within it. The roots that once connected the trees to the deep, the insects that once carried the messages through the roots, all fall silent. The earth forgets how to speak. The air, once thick with the hum of insects and the rustle of leaves, now carries only the sound of wind through empty spaces. The forest is no longer a living network, but a memory in the making. And in the absence of the trees, the land can no longer transmit the signals that once connected the earth to the sky. The silence is not empty. It is a void, filled with the weight of what has been lost. The twist isn't just in the trees, but in the silence between them. As the forest thins, so does the web of life that once hummed with unseen signals. Logging disrupts not just the physical structure of the forest, but the patterns of sound and vibration that animals use to find one another. It silences the forest's language. Climate change adds a layer of unpredictability. Storms, droughts, and rising temperatures scramble the rhythms of migration and breeding, throwing off the timing of signals. The animals are trying to adapt, but the signals they once relied on are fading. The forest is no longer a place of harmony, but of miscommunication and isolation. In the end, the twist is that the forest's communication is not just about survival. It's about connection. And when that connection breaks, the entire system begins to unravel. The trees are not just silent, they are listening. Their roots exchange signals across vast distances, a quiet network of survival and warning. But when we cut them down, we sever more than wood. We sever a language of the earth. Carbon, once locked in the wood, now escapes into the atmosphere. It's a message the planet cannot ignore, a signal that our systems are out of sync with the rhythms of the natural world. Climate change alters the language of the seasons. The timing of blooming and migration shifts, and the trees, once in sync with their environment, now face a world that no longer speaks their dialect. We are not just changing the climate. We are changing the way the world communicates. The forests, once a symphony of life, now echo with the sounds of loss. Their silence a message we refuse to hear. Imagine the world as a giant, tangled phone line. Every person, every creature, is a call waiting to be connected. But now, the wires are fraying and the signals are fading. Logging and climate change are like two hands pulling the same cord. One cuts through the trees, the other through the sky. The noise grows louder, but the connection gets weaker. We built our world on the assumption that we could control the flow of information. But the truth is, we are just another signal in the system, and we are losing the frequency. In the end, the greatest silence we will leave is not the absence of sound, but the absence of connection. A world where we no longer know how to listen. Comment this emoji if you made it to the end. Imagine a forest that doesn't just grow, but connects. Beneath our feet, a hidden network thrives, older than time, linking trees like a nervous system. This network isn't just soil. It's a web of life, a silent conversation between roots, trees, and the earth itself. It's called the Mycorrhizal network. When we clear forests, we don't just remove trees. We sever this ancient web, leaving behind a fragmented, lifeless landscape. But what if we could heal this web? What if we could bring back the connection that once sustained entire ecosystems? This is the story of reconnecting the web. It's not just about planting trees. It's about restoring the invisible threads that bind life together. So what exactly are we talking about? We're not just talking about plants. We're talking about an ancient, silent network that binds the roots of forests together. A web of life that's been operating beneath our feet for millennia. This network is made up of mycorrhizal fungi, which form a symbiotic relationship with tree roots. They exchange nutrients, water, and even chemical signals, creating a kind of biological internet for the forest. This network isn't just a passive system. It's a dynamic, responsive communication hub. Trees can warn each other of insect attacks, share resources during droughts, and even support the growth of new saplings in the forest. When we disrupt this network, through deforestation, soil degradation, or chemical use, we cut off this vital communication. Reintroducing mycorrhizal fungi is like restoring the lifeblood of the forest itself. It's not just about fixing the earth. It's about understanding how these ancient networks have sustained life for millennia, and how we can learn to reconnect with them in the same way. You might not notice it, but the soil beneath your feet is a living network, a silent library of connections that keeps the world breathing. This web isn't just dirt and roots. It's the backbone of life on Earth. When we damage this network, through farming, deforestation, or pollution, we're not just harming trees. We're disrupting the balance of entire ecosystems, from microbes to mammals, all tied together by unseen threads. This isn't just about saving trees. It's about saving the invisible threads that connect us all. Every time you walk through a forest, you're walking through a web that holds the pulse of the planet. You don't have to be a scientist to care. The health of the web affects your air, your water, even your food. And in the end, we're all part of the same network, whether we know it or not. The roots of the Earth's web stretch back 400 million years, long before the first forests rose. These ancient networks, formed by fungi and plants, were the first internet of life. Silent, resilient, and ever-growing. For millennia, these fungal threads connected trees across vast distances, sharing nutrients, warnings, and even memories. It was a silent intelligence, unseen but undeniably alive. With the industrial age came more destruction. Forests were cleared, soil was compacted, and the once thriving mycorrhizal networks were left to wither, buried beneath concrete, steel. But in recent decades, a quiet revolution has begun. Scientists have rediscovered the wisdom of these ancient networks and are now working to rebuild them, one root at a time. Today, the goal is not just to restore ecosystems, but to reconnect the Earth's web, reviving the intelligence that has guided life through time and giving it a second chance to thrive. Imagine a forest floor where tiny roots and fungi share secrets. They're like best friends, helping plants grow and stay healthy. Now, picture someone planting special fungi to help plants talk again. These fungi are like nature's internet, connecting everything. When the fungi return, they help plants share water, nutrients, and even warnings about danger. It's like a secret club for trees. This is not just for trees. It helps the whole forest heal, grow, and stay strong. It's like giving the earth a big hug. Before any roots can reconnect, the land must be prepared. We begin by assessing the soil's health, looking for traces of mycorrhizal fungi, though delicate, thread-like networks hidden beneath the surface. Next, we clear away invasive plants and compacted earth, giving the soil a chance to breathe and reset. This step is crucial. It's not about destruction, but about opening the door for life to return. Once the land is ready, we introduce a small amount of mycorrhizal spores, like a whisper of ancient wisdom, waiting to take root and expand. This is not a quick fix. The fungi need time to colonize, to weave their networks through the soil, and to begin the slow, quiet work of restoring the web of life. Every step is intentional. We're not just planting trees, we're rebuilding the invisible connections that sustain the entire ecosystem. Once the mycorrhizal fungi are reintroduced, they begin to form intricate partnerships with plant roots, exchanging nutrients and water in a silent, underground dance. This symbiotic relationship is not just about survival, but about communication. A network that allows plants to warn each other of pests and disease, even across great distances. As this network expands, it becomes a living, adaptive infrastructure, one that can heal degraded soil, support biodiversity, and even mitigate climate change. Each connection is a thread in a larger tapestry, a reminder that life, in all its complexity, is not just about individual survival, but about the health of the whole. The clever twist lies in the way the mycorrhizal fungi act as a kind of invisible living network. They don't just connect roots, they also connect the soil itself, creating a feedback loop that stabilizes the ecosystem and allows new life to thrive. These fungi can sense changes in the environment and respond by releasing enzymes that break down toxins or make nutrients more accessible. This adaptive intelligence is what makes them such a powerful tool for restoration. This connection isn't just physical. It's a form of communication. The fungi can share signals between plants, warning them of threats like pests or drought, and even guiding them toward water sources. This is how the web truly renews itself. Not by force, but by invitation. The fungi are not just restorers. They are the silent architects of a resilient, self-sustaining ecosystem. Under the soil, a silent symphony plays. Fungi stretch their hyphae, weaving invisible threads that stitch the forest together, one root at a time. These mycorrhizal networks are not just biological highways. They're communication systems, nutrient exchanges, and emergency signals pass through the soil. The science is clear. These ancient partnerships restore soil fertility, enhance resilience, and allow ecosystems to heal in ways we've only begun to understand. It's not magic. It's biology. It feels like wonder, like the earth itself is trying to remember how to live. Imagine a forest where every tree is a person, and the soil is a bustling city. The mycorrhizal fungi are the invisible network of messengers, carrying secrets, warnings, and wisdom between every individual. When we introduce mycorrhizal fungi back into the soil, we're not just planting a seed, we're reviving a forgotten language, a silent symphony that once connected all life in perfect harmony. This is not magic. It's a process, a dialogue, a restoration of a system that once thrived and now waits to be remembered. The web is not just in the soil. It's in every breath we take, every drop of rain, every whisper of wind. We are part of it, and we have always been. Reconnecting the web is not about fixing the past. It's about living in the present, with the wisdom of the soil guiding us toward a future we've forgotten how to dream. Comment this emoji if you made it to the end. Have you ever felt the forest breathe? Not with your ears, but with your skin. The rustle of leaves, the hum of insects, the slow pulse of roots. This is not just noise, it's a language. Trees don't just stand in silence, they communicate. They send chemical signals through the soil, warning neighbors of danger. It's a kind of ancient green internet. But what does it mean to care for a forest? Is it about preserving trees, or about understanding the complex web of life they support? This video isn't just about trees. It's about how we relate to the world around us, how we see, feel, and choose to care. So let's dive into the science of empathy, not just for people, but for the trees. And maybe, in doing so, we'll learn how to care better for the world. So what exactly are we talking about? It starts with the idea that trees are not just passive organisms. They communicate, they remember, and they respond to their environment in ways we're only beginning to understand. Empathy, in this context, is not about feeling for trees, but about understanding their needs and acting in ways that support their health and survival. This isn't just about planting trees. It's about the care we give them, the space we leave for them, and the respect we show for the intricate web of life they support. So the science of empathy in forests is about bridging the gap between human understanding and the natural world, and finding ways to coexist that honor both. You think you don't care about trees? Think again. Every time you walk through a forest, you're part of an ancient, living conversation that's been unfolding for millennia. You're not just passing through, you're an observer, a participant, a silent witness to something far older than you. Empathy isn't just for humans. It's a bridge between species, a way to understand that the forest is not just a collection of trees, but a vast, interconnected nervous system, one that you are quietly, unknowingly part of. You might not feel it, but every tree you pass is silently asking for your attention. It's not dramatic, but it's real. The forest is alive, and it's calling you to see it not as a resource, but as a relative, a kind of cousin in a vast, green family. The ethics of forest care isn't just about saving trees. It's about saving the future of your own life. The more you care, the more you realize that your actions are not just choices. They're conversations with the world that shapes your world. So maybe it's not just about trees. Maybe it's about you. Because when you care about the forest, you're also caring about yourself. And that's something you can't ignore, even if you try. We begin in the prehistoric forests of the Carboniferous, where trees stood like ancient sentinels, their roots weaving a web of life beneath the soil. This was not just a place, but a network of communication, an ecosystem where trees whispered in the language of chemistry. As the ice ages came and went, forests adapted. Trees evolved new ways to survive, from the towering redwoods of the Pacific Northwest to the resilient oaks of Europe, each shaped by the climate and the lives that depended on them. In the 18th and 19th centuries, the Industrial Revolution transformed forests into resources. Trees were cut down not just for timber, but for fuel. And the first signs of environmental awareness began to emerge in the writings of early conservationists. The 20th century brought both destruction and revelation. Scientists began to understand the hidden networks of trees, the mycorrhizal fungi that connected them, and how they shared nutrients and warnings across vast distances. Today, we face the dual challenge of preserving forests while recognizing their intrinsic value. Empathy for trees is not just about their beauty. but about understanding their role in the web of life that sustains us all. Imagine you're a tree, standing in the forest. You feel the wind, the sun, and the rain. You share your food with the earth, and the earth gives you back what you need. When you're hurt, the forest helps you. When you're strong, you help the forest. It's like a team, sharing and caring, always listening and learning. Being kind to the forest isn't just about trees. It's about being kind to all living things, because they're all connected, like a big green family. So, if you want to be a good friend to the forest, just listen, learn, and care. That's how you grow, together. To understand how empathy works in the forest, we start by observing the roots. These are not just underground highways, but intricate communication networks that connect trees in a silent ancient language. Each tree is both a sender and a receiver, exchanging chemical signals, water, and even warnings about pests or drought, like a silent conversation across generations. This network isn't random. It's a deliberate, evolved system that supports the whole forest, creating a kind of collective intelligence that goes beyond individual survival. It's a foundation of cooperation, a setup that allows the forest to respond as a single organism, adapting to threats and nurturing growth in ways we're only beginning to understand. When a tree is wounded, it sends out chemical signals through its roots, like a silent call for help. These messages travel through the soil, reaching nearby trees that can respond with their own defenses. These signals are not just warnings. They also share information about the type of threat, so other trees can prepare. This is a form of communication that ancient, yet incredibly sophisticated. Some studies suggest that trees can even share nutrients through these networks, creating a sort of mutual aid system. This challenges the idea of trees as isolated individuals and reveals their deep interdependence. The science of empathy in trees isn't just about survival. It's about cooperation, memory, and the kind of care that transcends individual needs. It's a reminder that even in nature, there are systems of support and shared responsibility. Now comes the clever twist. The trees don't just passively receive nutrients. They actively share, creating a kind of forest-wide communication network. This exchange isn't random. It's guided by chemical signals and fungal threads that help them understand each other. This system is so efficient, it's like a neural network. Trees can warn each other of insect attacks or drought by sending chemical signals through the soil. It's not just survival. It's a form of cooperation, a kind of collective intelligence. This mutual aid challenges the idea of trees as solitary beings. In reality, they form a kind of social system, where the well-being of one tree can ripple through the entire forest. It's a biological model of care and shared responsibility. So, when we care for forests, we're not just protecting trees. We're tending to a vast, living network of communication and collaboration. It's a reminder that empathy is not just a human trait. It's a fundamental part of life on Earth. Underneath the forest floor, a silent network hums. Mycorrhizal fungi weaving through soil like an ancient, unseen internet. Trees communicate through this web, sharing nutrients and warnings in a language older than time. This fungal network is not just a biological system, but a bridge between individual trees, allowing them to sense and respond to the needs of their neighbors in real time. The science of empathy in forests is not just about cooperation. It's about a shared existence, a kind of collective consciousness that challenges our assumptions about individuality in nature. This interconnectedness is not a metaphor, but a literal reality. The forest is alive with intention, and its wisdom is waiting to be understood. To care for the forest is to care for this delicate, living web, to listen to its quiet hum, and to honor the empathy that binds it all together. Imagine a forest as a giant, ancient brain. Trees don't just grow. They communicate, warn each other, and even share nutrients through fungal networks, much like neurons in a human mind. This network is not just biological. It's a form of collective intelligence, a kind of distributed consciousness, operating on a scale we barely comprehend. So when we cut down a tree, we're not just removing wood, we're severing a connection in a vast living mind, potentially disrupting the whole system. This is why forest care isn't just about conservation. It's about maintaining the integrity of a shared consciousness, one that's older and more complex than we ever imagined. In the end, the forest is a kind of living brain, and we are its caretakers, trying to understand, protect, and nurture a network we're still learning to see. Comment this emoji if you made it to the end. I remember the first time I saw the forest without trees. It was a place that once thrived, but now stood as a silent, skeletal echo of what it had been. There was no sound, no movement, just the weight of absence pressing down on the air, like the world had forgotten how to breathe. It was not a place of ruin, but of forgetting, where the natural world had been pushed aside, not by force, but by the slow erosion of our attention. We built our cities, our lives, and in the process, we lost the rhythm of the earth. We no longer walk through the world as part of it, but as visitors to a place we have already left. This is not just a story of loss. It is a call to remember that our survival is not separate from the world, but woven into its very fabric. We are talking about a shift in how we see the world, not as something to be conquered, but as something we are part of. The earth is not a resource. It is a living system, and we are one of its many threads. This is not just about saving the environment. It is about redefining our place in the web of life. We are not separate from nature. We are nature, and it is not separate from us. We are talking about humility, about acknowledging that we do not control the world, but are carried by it, that our survival depends not on domination, but on harmony. This shift is not easy. It requires us to let go of old ways of thinking, to confront the reality of our impact, and to imagine a different future. One where we live not above nature, but within it. This is a new paradigm. Not a fantasy, but a necessary evolution. One that asks us to listen, to learn, and to change. Not for the sake of the world, but for our own survival. You think you're separate from the earth, but the truth is, you're made of it. Every breath you take, every step you take, is a silent conversation with the soil beneath your feet. When you cut a tree, you're not just removing wood, you're disrupting a cycle that has existed for millennia. The roots still hold memories, the soil still remembers. You don't need to be a scientist to feel the weight of this. You can feel it in your bones, in the way the air feels different after a storm, in the silence that follows the rain. This isn't just about saving the planet. It's about saving yourself. The earth is not a resource. It's a mirror, and it's showing you what you've forgotten. You may not want to hear it, but the earth is calling. And if you don't answer, you'll be the one who misses the last chance to listen. We began as wanderers, bound to the land, our lives woven into the rhythms of the earth. Every step we took was a question. Every breath a dialogue with the world that sustained us. As time passed, we built cities, carved out our own space, forgetting the roots that held us. The land became a resource, not a relative, and the balance we once knew began to unravel. We built monuments to our power, forgetting the lessons of the past. The more we took, the more we lost, and the world that once cradled us became a distant memory. The natural world, once our teacher, became an adversary. We fought it, polluted it, and in doing so, we lost sight of the truth that we are not separate from it. We are part of it. Now, in this moment, We stand at the edge of a great reckoning. The world is speaking, and we must listen. Not as conquerors, but as children of the earth, ready to learn once more. Imagine the world like a tree. You are the roots, reaching deep into the soil, connecting to everything that keeps you alive. But the tree is not just you. It's the sky, the wind, the rain, the animals, the soil. All of it is part of you. When we harm the tree, we harm ourselves. We are not separate from the world. We are the world. The new way is not to take from the tree. It is to listen, to feel, to remember that we are made of the same things as the earth. It's not easy. It's not simple. But it's the only way to be whole again. To be part of something bigger than ourselves. The first step is to acknowledge the silence that surrounds us. To sit still, to listen, to let the world speak without interruption. We must unlearn the noise of progress and learn to hear the pulse of the earth beneath our feet. We begin by removing the barriers, both physical and mental. Let go of the fences, the screens, the distractions that separate us from the natural world. It is not enough to look, we must be present. This is not a retreat, but a reconnection. A return to a way of being that has always existed, waiting for us to remember it. We are not separate from nature. We are a part of it, and it is a part of us. The first step is not grand, not dramatic. It is simple, intimate, and deeply personal. It is the act of standing still and letting the world remind us of who we are meant to be. This is how it begins. Not with grand declarations, but with small, quiet acts of presence. It is the foundation, the quiet beginning of a new paradigm. We begin with a quiet acknowledgement. The soil beneath our feet is not just dirt. It is a living memory, a repository of time, a network of life that has sustained us for millennia. Every action we take, planting, harvesting, building, is a conversation with the land. It is not passive, it is a dialogue, one that demands reciprocity and responsibility. The mechanism is not one of control, but of alignment. We are not separate from nature. We are part of its breath, its rhythm, its ancient and enduring will. This is how it works, not through force, but through presence. We must listen, we must wait, and we must let the land guide us back to the place where we belong. The clever twist is not a new idea, but a reawakening of an ancient truth, that we are not separate from nature, but deeply entangled with it. It's the moment we realize our lives are not just shaped by the world, but are a part of it. This twist lies in the reversal of our perspective. Instead of trying to control and dominate, we begin to listen, to feel, to become participants in a dialogue with the natural world that has always been happening around us. The clever twist is not in the act itself, but in the intention behind it. It is in the recognition that every action we take, whether planting a seed or walking through a field, is an act of creation, not just consumption. This shift in thinking is what turns a simple gesture into a profound statement. It is not about perfection, but about presence, about being in the moment, about recognizing the interconnectedness of all life. The clever twist is the moment we stop seeing ourselves as outside the system and start seeing ourselves as part of the system. It is the moment we realize that the world is not something to be fixed, but something to be lived in harmony with. Beneath the surface of our actions, the science of ecosystems hums like a quiet, ancient song. Every tree, every microbe, every breath of wind is part of a vast, intricate symphony of life that we are only beginning to understand. The soil is not just dirt. It is a living library, holding memories of the Earth's past and the blueprint of its future. Microbes, fungi, and roots form a network so complex it rivals the human brain in its depth and connection. The climate isn't just a backdrop to our lives. It is a partner in the dance of existence. Its rhythms are not random, but a language of balance and warning, written in the patterns of storms, droughts, and ice. We are not separate from this science, but woven into it. Every breath we take, every step we make, is part of a cycle that has existed long before us and will continue long after. To rewrite our relationships with nature is to rewrite the very foundation of our existence. The science is clear, but the choice remains ours, whether we listen or continue to ignore the song beneath our feet. We are like children playing with a fire that we don't understand. We light it, we warm ourselves, and then we forget to ask why it burns. The earth is not a resource to be consumed, but a teacher who has been ignored for far too long. Its lessons are written in storms, in droughts, in the silence of the forests. We have built our cities on the backs of rivers, without ever thanking them for their flow. We have taken without giving, and in doing so, we have forgotten the rhythm of the world. But there is still time to change. We can choose to listen, to learn, to return to the old ways of understanding and reciprocity with the natural world. The future is not written in books, but in the way we treat the land, the air, and the water. It is in the way we choose to live, not as conquerors, but as guests. Comment this emoji if you made it to the end. There's a silence so thick, it feels like the world is holding its breath. I'm standing in a forest where the air is still, and the trees seem to lean in, listening. You can't hear anything until you realize you're not supposed to. The forest is speaking in a language we've forgotten, one that doesn't rely on words. The silence isn't empty. It's full. It's a presence that demands to be heard, not with our ears, but with our souls. We come here seeking answers, but the forest doesn't answer. It simply is inviting us to listen, not to understand, but to be transformed. In this moment, I feel the weight of everything we've lost, and the fragile hope that we might still find our way back to it. We're not just talking about trees or birds or the wind. We're talking about a living, breathing network of relationships that has been here long before us and will be here long after. It's a world that communicates in ways we rarely pause to listen to, through rustling leaves, the hum of insects, the distant call of an owl. These are not random sounds, but messages. This call to coexistence isn't a demand, it's a plea, a reminder that our survival is tied to the health of this ancient, silent world that has never once asked for anything in return. So what are we to do? We are to listen, not just with our ears, but with our hearts, our minds, and our willingness to change. It begins with silence, with stillness, with a willingness to be heard by something far greater than ourselves. You think the forest is far away, but it's already in your breath, in the silence between your thoughts, in the way your body remembers the earth beneath your feet. The trees don't need your approval, but they do need your presence. They are listening, just as you are. The question is, are you listening back? The more you ignore the forest, the more it whispers. And the more it whispers, the less you hear. It's not a matter of urgency. It's a matter of presence. To care for the forest is to care for yourself. It's not about saving the world. It's about remembering that you were part of it, and it is part of you. So if you're listening now, if you're reading this, if you're still here, then maybe, just maybe, you're not so far from the forest after all. I think back to the first time I walked into the forest, not knowing what I find. The silence was heavy, not empty. It was a presence, ancient and knowing, watching me with the patience of something that has seen it all. Then came the logging trucks, the chainsaws, the smoke. The forest didn't scream. It just stood there, quiet, as if it understood the cost of silence. I watched, helpless, as it changed before my eyes. Today, I walk again through the forest, but now I hear it. The rustle of leaves, the call of a bird, the whisper of wind. It's not just a place, it's a teacher. A reminder of what we've lost and what we can still save. This is not just a story of trees. It's a story of us. A story of how we came to be here, how we chose to live, and how we may yet choose to live differently. The forest is not asking for anything. It's waiting. Imagine you're in a forest, and every leaf is whispering. It's not loud, but you can hear it. That's what the forest is saying to us. The forest isn't just trees and animals. It's a big, quiet voice that wants to be heard. It's telling us to listen, not just with our ears, but with our hearts. It's not about changing everything at once. It's about changing how we look, how we move, how we feel. It's about being gentle like the forest is. The forest doesn't ask for much. It just asks us to be still, to be present, to be part of something bigger than ourselves, and then to listen. The first step is simple, yet profound. You sit in silence, not as an observer, but as a listener. The forest doesn't need your voice, it needs your stillness. You place your ear against the earth, not to hear the wind, but to feel the pulse of the land beneath your skin. This is where the forest begins to speak. The forest does not shout. It hums, a low, steady vibration that resonates in your chest, a reminder that you are not separate from it, but part of its breath. This is not just listening. It is surrendering to the rhythm of the earth. A moment of quiet, unbroken, where time bends to the will of the forest. The forest breathes in rhythms we've learned to ignore. Its silence filled with the subtle vibrations of life. We listen not with our ears, but with the stillness of our own being, allowing the world to speak through us. Each tree, each root, each leaf is a voice in the chorus. We are not separate from this symphony. We are part of it, woven into its pulse, its breath, its memory. This is the mechanism, a living network, ancient and intricate, where information flows not through wires, but through soil, through air, through the silent language of the earth. To listen is to acknowledge that we are not above the system, but within it. We are not the masters of the forest, but its companions, its stewards, its students. This is how it works. Not through domination, but through dialogue. Not through force, but through understanding. Not through control, but through coexistence. The twist is not a trick, but a mirror. It shows that listening is not passive, but an act of presence, of becoming part of the rhythm, not just hearing it. In this moment, the forest is not a backdrop, but a partner. The trees are not just standing, but breathing, and we are invited to breathe with them. The clever twist is that the forest doesn't need us to save it. It needs us to listen, to be still, to be part of its story, not its salvation. This is not a call to action, but to awareness, to recognize that we are not separate from the forest, but a part of its living, breathing, ancient self. So, how does it work? It works by letting the forest speak, and by letting ourselves be heard in return. Not with words, but with presence, with humility, with listening. Beneath the rustling leaves, the forest hums with a symphony of life. Every branch, every root, every drop of rain is a note in a score older than memory. We are not separate from this song. We are part of it. Science tells us that trees communicate through underground networks, sending warnings of disease and drought across vast distances. This is not just survival. It is a language of trust, woven in silence, yet profound. We have long seen the forest as a resource, but science is revealing it as a teacher. It has always known how to balance, how to heal, how to endure. It is not a thing to be used. It is a being to be listened to. The science is clear. The forest is not a passive entity. It is a complex, self-regulating system, a living archive of resilience. To ignore it is to ignore the wisdom of the earth itself. If we are to live in harmony, we must learn to listen, not just with our ears, but with our hearts. The forest is not speaking in words, but in patterns, in cycles, in the quiet strength of its existence. I once saw a tree fall in the forest, and I didn't hear it, not because it was silent, but because I was listening for the wrong thing. I thought I needed to hear it to prove it existed. But what if the forest doesn't need to be heard? What if it needs to be felt, to be seen, to be lived? The tree falls, and the forest changes. It doesn't shout. It breathes. We are not meant to control the forest. We are meant to be part of it. To listen, not to understand, but to be understood by. To be a leaf in the wind, not the wind itself. To be a listener is not to be a witness. It is to be a part of the story. To be a presence in the silence, not a voice in the noise. So let us be dumb, but not ignorant. Let us be still, but not silent. Let us be part of the forest, not apart from it. And let us listen, not for answers, but for the question. Comment this emoji if you made it to the end.